Okay, so here's the big idea. Maximizing your retirement income while keeping your taxes at a bare minimum are crucial strategies for achieving financial security in retirement. Hold on a sec, my recording just kind of like adjusted. Okay, my bad. So what we're going to cover today is this. Why is it confusing? Because retirement planning actually has these complex issues that are involved, like taxes, market volatility, and healthcare costs as well, and that can be overwhelming for many people. And so here's our promise. You're going to learn today key strategies, George Freeman, and for maximizing your retirement income and really just navigating financial planning confidently, because this is a different stage in your life. It's no longer about accumulation. It's now about taking out money from everything that you've saved up all your life. You worked hard, and we want to make sure that everything that you save towards is going to serve you the best way. So I want to share three reasons why you may want to use us as your guide and why you may want to do this as soon as possible. Well, first and foremost, here's our first reason. Your ideal retirement is our number one priority. And before we talk about products or numbers or dollars, we start with what's your vision really of what your retirement looks like? What's your definition of just having the freedom? Our only job is to help you achieve that, and we want to make sure that you have that peace of mind and you're able to protect that future that you've worked so hard to build. The second reason is we make retirement simple and easy to understand. Um, we don't want to get into complicated terminology, but we also want to make sure that it's not in a way simple that you can just go on YouTube and figure this out. Retirement planning doesn't have to be complicated, and so we break everything down into simple and very clear frameworks. So you always know what's happening with your money. And we have full transparency. You also have unlimited access to us. We don't have hourly consultation fees, right? Yes, we do have actual offices all over 50 states, but we also work remotely and can hop on a call or a Zoom call with you at any time. And the third reason, which is I think is probably the most urgent one, we protect you from what you can't control, right? So there are events none of us can control, but we can control how exposed your retirement is to them, right? Most retirees have no protection from these risks. That's why we created this two bucket system strategy that we're going to be sharing with you guys today, and the ideal Roth conversion window. And so these three things that most of us can control. Number one, the market's in all-time high, and this is caused by this AI bubble. If you guys remember the dot-com bubble or the mortgage bubble, we have an AI bubble where borrowed money is driving the price of stocks, and it's really this huge market concentration risk. The second one, there's global conflict happening all over the place, right? And that's why there is an inflation and volatility risk, because if something happens in China, our money is affected over here, right? And last but not least, interest rate risk, right? Because we've had the interest rates for so long, for a long time, to stimulate the economy, to stimulate the economy, and now it's right around we're in. We don't know which direction it's going to go, and this directly affects the income that your retirement accounts can generate, because interest rates have an inverse relationship with retirement income, unless you implement a strategy wherein it's going to be bulletproof from it. And so what have we found is the ideal retirement outcome for most people. Now, this may not be yours, but this is what we found is what majority people want to have, but they actually rarely achieve. So number one is predictable monthly income. We always say that everything, like all the bills are still there. The one thing that disappears is your stable income. That's going to come. Now, Social Security is not really going to replace the income. So what if you can have a predictable monthly income? Lower taxes, low taxes every year, and for it not to go up. There's something called IRMAA, and we'll cover that in a little bit. That relates to your Medicare cost. And sometimes it comes as a surprise for most people. No RMD shocks. RMD stands for Required Minimum Distribution, and that means when you turn 73 years old, the IRS will now control what you have to withdraw from your accounts. And this kind of like, for most cases, it messes up the tax bracket you're in, how your Social Security is going to be taxed, and it also affects Medicare costs for you. At the building a tax-free bucket, right? Why do people want to have that? Well, we're going to cover that today. Guaranteed income for life. Now, a lot of people have a pension plan that will pay them guaranteed money. And so we want to be able to show you how you can build something like that for yourself. And more importantly, if you're wanting to build a legacy, which means everything that you've built all your life will benefit either family or a community. And so if that's something that you want, for some people that's the ideal scenario for them. So you kind of like leave a legacy. So they have contributed something in their life. And so retirement isn't about how much you have, it's about how much you actually keep and you are able to use for the rest of your life. And so couples we met are all saying the same thing, right? They want safety, they want clarity, they want predictability, and we're going to reverse engineer how to actually get there. So again, this is our retirement tax-free income workshop. So retirement accounts have different tax brackets, right? You can either be taxed based on income, you can either be taxed based on capital gains, or you can be tax-free. And so that's what we want to be able to help you achieve, to have that tax-free cash flow for the rest of your retirement. So today's workshop is about clarity, not just product. We're not trying to just sell you a thing, right? Now, there are financial products that are going to be involved in different sides of the spectrum, right? But just understanding how to build retirement income, that's actually what works in today's world. You deserve a retirement where income is predictable and taxes are optional. Whether you don't want to be taxed or get taxed, that's up to you. So for 20 years, we've helped families retire confidently. Close to 2 decades. I used to be an architect by profession. I got hit by the '08 crisis, and that kind of like started my journey of discovery. But the rules have changed, right? Today we get a roadmap built for the new retirement reality. And so we're going to cover some stuff. And you're aware of this, we're just going to put a name to it. So the first one is sequencing risk. Sequencing risk poses a critical threat to retirement savings, highlighting the importance of strategic withdrawal planning. I had an aunt who retired in 2007 with about close to $1 million. And by the next year, she had less than $500,000 in her account. and she still needed to withdraw the money when the market is down. So in this sequencing risk, I'm going to show you now. I know there's a lot of numbers. So there's something called sequence of returns, and it creates two different results during distribution, right? As you guys all know, there's something called accumulation, or if not, there's something called accumulation when you're still working 25 to 65 and you're saving in that 401k and that IRA. But there's also when you retired, like George right now, you retired for 1 year, you're now in distribution, right? So accumulation, distribution, two totally different things. Now, in this example, we're showing the average return in a window of about 25 years at about 8% return. And that means some of the years are negative, some of the years are positive. The only difference is they're inverted. Here, it starts with a negative market and then it's positive later on. But over here, the same returns, but it starts with a positive market and then negative later on. So how does this affect someone when they're accumulating? It's going to come out the same return because it's based on accumulation. But on distribution, it's two totally different scenarios. Over here, portfolio A and B both average 8%. But if you look at the inverted situation, portfolio A is going to be at 0 by age 83 if this person started retirement at 66, right? While portfolio B had 3.2 million still by the time they got to that number, or 2.8 million. So there's a big difference between you starting retirement when the market is going down. That's why I wanted to bring up the whole AI bubble. And also if you started where the market is going up. And that's going to affect it because there's when you have a loss, you have to gain more when you have a loss in your retirement. So a 10% loss, no biggie. It's just gonna require an 11% gain. But a 20% loss, so 100,000 losing 20,000, that means you're at 80,000. 80,000 needs 25% of 80,000, which is 20,000 just to break even to 100,000. And if you get a 30% loss, you need 43% to recover. And that's why I was kind of sort of like referring to 2008. If you remember 2000 and 2008, if you had $1 million portfolio, right, the market crashed almost close to 50% in 2000, which is the dot-com bubble, and then 56%, and this is the S&P 500 based on the mortgage bubble, the real estate bubble. And if you had $1 million and the market goes down by 50%, you're now at 500,000. If you only get a 50% gain from 500,000, that only brings you to 750,000, and you need a full 100% to get back to 1 million or break even. And it took 13 years from 2000 to 2013 for the S&P 500 to just break even. So it's very important to understand these things because that's why we want to share with you something that is called the Buffett indicator. So we have a subscription for this report, and it gives us real time. So this model was created based on the way Warren Buffett, the greatest investor in history, on how he decides when he should get out of the market and when he should get in. And this chart shows this green area here is when you buy, and this red area here is when you want to get out and protect what you've had. And you'll notice here how it peaked in 2000 and it crashed. The same thing here. The moment it's overvalued, there's no more room to go up. And as of this week, we are over here. This is overvalued. This is strongly overvalued. I don't think we've ever gotten to level 3 overvalued, but that's kind of like where we're at right now. So predictability matters in retirement. Retirees seek financial stability so that you can enjoy your golden years without anxiety, without worrying about market fluctuations or more importantly, unexpected expenses or major expenses. So I want you to meet Jerry. He's one of our great friends, and he's been a client of ours for close to a decade now. But he's a real client, not a real photo here. Jerry, when we set up his plan for him, it started with it paying him about $113,000 a year. And he's still getting $27,000 from Social Security. So he's getting about $140,000 per year. And his income has continued to go up, but his taxes never went up. On top of that, his lifetime income will double to $226,000 a year plus the Social Security in the event that he's going to need long-term care. So we actually show people how we set up this plan for him. It's a combination of two buckets, which we're gonna go through right now. And just like what I was saying earlier, accumulating wealth and taking out income, it requires two totally different strategies. And we believe there's only two types of retirement income today. And it's in your retirement is gonna fall in one of these two categories, because the first one is how retirees have been doing it since the 1980s. And we're close to half a century later that some people are still using that old model. And so your future will depend on which option you choose. So I want to call this the old way and the new way. And these are, again, financial concepts. I'm adding numbers here just to make it a little bit better to understand. And so the old way is what we call the 4% rule. And the 4% rule means that based on your nest egg, you should only pull out 4% per year to make sure that your money will last for the rest of your life, right? We're having more and more centennials right now. So based on this example, a client who's 65 years old and a total nest egg of about 1.5 million. By the way, this is a couple. Husband and wife, real scenario. They're a little bit over. It's like 1.52 million, but we just rounded it off. So a 4% rule, all the 1.5 million stays inside the IRA, traditional IRA. We call this the Roth Conversion workshop because a Roth IRA is tax-free income. Traditional IRA or 401ks and 403bs, those are taxable income. And so this 1.5 million staying in an IRA with a 4% rule pays out about $60,000 per year. And let's just say this couple too has a combined about $6,000 a month in Social Security, which adds up to about $72,000 a year. And so their total income will be at about 132. Right? Now, after taxes, what we call net spendable is about 123,000. And so that's about 3.5% of 1.5 million. Does that make sense? So that's the 80 strategy. And maybe it worked then because if you guys know, Social Security was designed expecting people only will live till like early 70s, right? But people are living in their 80s and 90s right now. So the second strategy, the two bucket strategy, we believe is the new way. And this now involves a Roth conversion. Now, it doesn't mean this is what you're going to do. Every person, we want to custom tailor your ideal retirement based on what you have and based on maybe some outstanding bills that or fixed bills that you have to pay, plus what you want to be able to do. So the first one is, I mentioned this a while ago, having a personal private pension plan, right? And we're going to build that first bucket. We're probably going to put in about $1 million in there, or at least 2/3 of the pie. And then the other 1/3, or in this case 500,000, this is now the Roth conversion bucket. And some people are going to ask me, why not convert the whole thing? Well, the thing is, when you do a Roth conversion, you actually cannot have the tax-free income taken effect until 5 years. And for most folks, they're going to need that income right now. So we're not converting the whole thing. We're just converting enough so that the income goes to the lowest tax bracket. And once we do this optimization, by the time they start taking out their Roth income, they're probably going to be sitting on about $200,000 of income at like the lowest possible tax bracket. So you get a tax-free Roth income later, and then guaranteed income tied with it. So like it says here, same 1.5 million, two totally different outcomes, the 4% rule and the two bucket strategy that we have. It has guaranteed income, long-term care protection, your money will continue to grow, and then your taxes remain at a bare minimum. That is our strategy. So now, quick disclosure, you don't need 1.5 million for this to work. Again, we're just using an example of a plan we had set up. We will build the most optimal income strategy with whatever you have. Okay, most people we help, they don't have 1.5 million. Now, some may have more, some may have less, 250,000, half a mil, and the strategy will scale up or down. So the customization is based on your income needs, your tax bracket, your social security timing, if you plan to take it out at 66, 68, or 70, your RMD risk based on how much you've saved, how much will RMD be based on that projection. We're going to determine all of that. By the way, we will offer, or we will, as part of this workshop, you will get a personalized one-on-one Roth conversion analysis or assessment if it's even worth doing. Or maybe you can just, have the strategy we're in. You don't have to do that. This is all based on an assessment that we'll do for you for free. So you get the same optimized structure. It's just going to adjust based on your situation. So the 4% rule, like we gave here as an example, right? It generates 60,000 a year, right? Plus the Social Security. That is a term that we call provisional income. Now, you're probably just hearing that term today, or you probably heard it as you're approaching retirement. This is the basis of how the IRS will tax your Social Security, provisional income. For most couples, there's going to be a standard deduction, unless they have a business. The standard deduction as of next year is $31,500. And not to get too much into the details, so on this 60,000 4% rule IRA, minus standard deduction, the taxable income is only $28,500, which is again pretty low. And if in this situation the Social Security is also taxable based on the tax bracket, but not all of it, about 85% of it. So 85% of 72,000, which is 61,200, is going to be taxable. And That's how this will come out, right? It's about 20% bracket here, plus total taxes of this income is about 2,900, plus the taxes of Social Security. I apologize, I wasn't able to add that over here, but it's right around 12,000, right around $12,000. What we want to be able to do is, now this is, conservative income, and taxes were driven low because the income wasn't as big. But what if, right, we change it? Let me break down first why this 4% rule breaks down. It assumes that the market is just going to be stable. It assumes that there won't be like maybe a major crash. It assumes that interest rates are going to be the same, right? It assumes that taxes in the future are going to be the same. It does nothing about Social Security taxations, RMDs, IRMAA, and sequence of returns. There's no built-in risk for healthcare expenses like long-term care, and legacy is fully taxable. So the transfer to the children, maybe the grandchildren, to the state is fully taxable. And so the 4% rule ignores all these things. It's a withdrawal rule. It's not a strategy. Okay, so we met people who've been using this, and it wasn't too late because we could still convert it into what we can do for them. So now we have that two bucket system, right? The two bucket system, in its simplest form, you have the first bucket is a bucket that never runs out of money, which means what this means for you, that you will have this stable, reliable income guaranteed for the rest of your life. Kind of like your Social Security. It's still going to be there as long as you're alive, or a pension plan. That's the first bucket. On this example, the 1 million is the one that we use for that lifetime income, right? And that income, which is about 7.3%, $73,000 a year, can double to 146,000 if there is a medical condition that happens that triggers long-term care. So that's the first bucket. The second bucket, this is now your tax-free growth Roth IRA engine. And so this 500,000 is going to be directed into mutual funds. Now, mutual funds, yes, they're still exposed to the market and can make losses, but it's going to be put there based on a long-term window, which is the 5-year holding, because like I said, you cannot use the tax-free benefit of a Roth IRA on the first 5 years of when the money was converted. And so the way we are able to at least supplement this 500,000 that we're not using during those 5 years, we put their money, that instead of it making 4% or them receiving 4%, they're receiving 7.5 or more. We can get this thing to almost 8% withdrawals during those 5 years. And then by the time that 5th year hits, you now get the additional tax-free dollars coming from this account. So our mutual funds on average do anywhere from 18% to 30% returns. And obviously, suitability will not approve a retiree to put all their money in that, because the market crashes, then you lose, half of it or more, and it's during the time we're in, you're relying it for income. So that's why it has to be a separate bucket. And the way we do that, the strategy.
Take care of.
And so after 5 years, you have this tax-free income flowing, getting direct deposited into your bank consistently, and it doesn't bring your income tax up. So I wanted to show this clip from a movie that I really enjoyed. This is Armageddon.
I think we can take care of some of that.
Harry!
Yeah, one more thing. None of them want to pay taxes again. Ever.
Okay, so
I think we can.
is that funny? Like what people want, if it's possible, right? Well, it's not possible when you're working. It is possible in retirement. So, George, you're from Whittier, California, beautiful Whittier, California. This strategy is California optimized. Some there are plans out there. You might see some of them. They don't. They're not approved in California because there's a lot. We California has a lot stricter laws, and so all the plan we're showing today is a California optimized strategy. And again, the big picture is from years 1 to 5. You have you're going to get higher income than the 4% rule, and then from 6 onwards, you get this tax-free income bucket that continues to grow. Now, as I wrap up here, I'm just going to show some traps that you may want to learn and understand. So what's shown on the left here is 0%, 50%, 85%. These are the brackets on how much of your Social Security will be taxed. It's not how much taxes you'll owe. It means it's either 0% of your Social Security will be taxed, or 50% of it, or 85% of it. Okay, so if Social Security is about 20,000, then if it's at the 50% bracket, only 10,000 of it will be taxed, while the rest, the tax bracket on how it will be taxed is now going to be based on your tax bracket based on your retirement income. So most people don't realize they're being taxed on up to 85% of their Social Security, not because Social Security is big, but because their IRA withdrawals are. There are retirees that when we sit down with them and they see this 401k, it's probably something they get so excited. They're seeing like 700,000, a million, and they're thinking, oh, I want to pay off the balance of my mortgage. And I ask him, how much do you have? Oh, I got about 250,000, right? Do you know you need to withdraw 500,000 because they're going to tax about half of that money because you're taking out a huge lump sum, right? So those are just a few things, and obviously with Social Security, the two bucket strategy lowers the future taxable income after conversions. It's not Social Security that's the problem. It's how your IRA distributions or 401k distributions that's kind of like sitting behind it. And so we'll build your plan to reduce how much of your Social Security will be taxed. The second trap is something called IRMAA, right? IRMAA stands for Income Related Monthly Adjustment Amount. This is the penalty, right, on your Medicare bill. So how do I explain this, right? IRMAA can hit you later every year for the rest of your life, because when required minimum distribution gets triggered, and if you have a sizable nest egg, it will bring your retirement income to a bracket where it may trigger IRMAA. And so it says here, RMDs can put your IRMAA in your 70s. This is the hidden Medicare tax, which means you're going to have to pay for a couple an extra $6,000 a year, right, if you get into that higher income bracket. With a two bucket strategy, when we're converting, you have to understand a Roth conversion, it's almost like saying the income that you decided to defer in the future. Let's just say you decided to defer 10,000 every year, and that's kind of like what built your retirement. And now you have this 401k that you deferred, right? And we're gonna start converting. If we were gonna convert 100,000 every year, that means you're going to receive that 100,000 as if it's income. So whatever you're receiving on your IRA, your Social Security, the converted amount is going to add to that. And so during those years, yes, you're going to be on a higher tax bracket, but we're not converting like 500,000 like one time. We're doing this timing of conversion so that you still stay within a low income bracket while we're doing the conversion. So when we do that, no more IRMAA for life, right? Even if your income gets to $250,000, $300,000 a year, your tax will stay the same, probably at about $10,000, and there's no IRMAA penalties. That's what's going to happen. So you'll notice here the first maybe 3 or 4 years of conversion, yes, it will bring you to a higher tax. For some people, it might trigger IRMAA, but then after that, there won't be any more IRMAA penalties. And the last tax trap we're going to talk about is the required minimum distribution. I have this video here wherein, the word the and the IRS comes together, and it spells the word theirs because that's kind of like how IRAs and 401ks work. Part of your money is theirs, right? And because of that, the IRS decides how much you withdraw after 73. As a matter of fact, 72 and a half, but then they have you make sure you withdraw money at 73. So with the two bucket strategy, we are able to dramatically, it says here empty the IRA, or dramatically reduce it. And so the IRS loses control, right? The IRS cannot tax a Roth IRA. The IRS has no control over a Roth IRA. The IRS has zero taxes that they will get ever, whether you use it or it gets inherited by your spouse or children. It will never be taxed. So if your IRA distribution stays large, RMDs at 73, and it will increase every year, right? It's going to increase your tax bracket, your Social Security taxation, and it's going to put you on an IRMAA risk, right? The two bucket strategy, wherein we empty the IRA taxable part of your retirement, no RMDs on this Roth bucket at 73, and you control how much is going to be your taxable income. So RMDs are forced taxation. It's not optional. And so our goal is simple: arrive at 73 with no RMD problem. So as I explained a while ago, the first 5 years is probably a 4 or 5 year Roth conversion phase. Again, depending on the balance of the account. So from 65 to 69, on this example again, this couple was getting a $73,000 a year lifetime income, and then they're getting 72,000 in Social Securities, and then we're converting about 150,000 a year, because that 500,000 is growing at about 20% rate, right? Which means it doubles every 3.5 years. And so by the time you convert this 500,000, it's no longer 500,000. It's more like 800,000. But now 800,000 tax free. So for 5 years, we do this tax surgery. We pay more on taxes on purpose, so the IRS can't ambush ambush you later. 5 years of controlled pain beats 25 years of surprise pain. And so this is like remodeling your house, right? It's more like your financial house. It's kind of like messy, right? During that window of conversion, but by the time we're done, it's going to be beautiful later. So we're going to map out exactly what that conversion will look like. And just like it says here at 70, the game changes. Get added this tax-free income, right? So your income can go higher and higher, and your taxes stay the same regardless, right? And so you go from tax reactive to tax proactive. So the net result, right? On a 4% rule, you net about $123,000 a year, fully taxable, no long-term care, no guarantees, RMDs later, and then IRMAA risk. On a two-bucket strategy, after we set this up, your net income can exceed $180,000 to $200,000 a year. A large chunk will be tax-free Roth. $73,000 guaranteed for life. Again, this is based on that $1 million. RMDs eliminated, IRMAA minimized, and then you have a tax-free legacy. And you can also, on this situation, if either of this couple gets into a long-term care situation, they're gonna receive $6,000 a month tax-free long-term care. So let me repeat that in bold. Based on this couple who's making $72,000 from Social Security and have a combined 1.5 401k IRA balance, they had to choose between getting $132,000 a year or $200,000 a year. Now, mind you, on both cases, they pay about $12,000 in taxes. So which one would you rather have? And that's what we're going to set up. Again, it's all based on the balance, and then we'll adjust based on scale. But just like I mentioned a while ago, it's California optimized. It's designed for California tax brackets, for California cost of living. It handles property tax, state income tax, healthcare, and then uses California approved carriers and options. And so this is my last slide. So what do you do next? Well, this is our offer. We're going to do a Roth Conversion assessment for you, completely free, and we're just going to find out if you do need to do a conversion and how much it will benefit you, how much it's going to save you in taxes. We're going to show you the companies that can do this conversion and pay you the most money that you can get. And then at that point, you can decide, right? But we reverse engineer it based on your ideal retirement, right? Right, Freeman? We want to able to sit down with you and just figure out, okay, what are the bills? Is a mortgage paid off? Are you about to pay it off? Do you want to travel? Do you have some hobbies? And you want to make sure you want to have fun. I think fun is a secret to longevity. And I think tax-free income is too. They made a study that if you have guaranteed income, that you live longer. I think there's going to be a better study if you have guaranteed tax-free six-figure income will make you live longer. Why? You're worry-free and you're just enjoying life. So there's two things. You can either scan the code that I have right now, or I'm going to put up a link, right? As a matter of fact, let me just do a screenshot of the attendee so I can individually send you a link so that you can schedule when you would like to have your free